life is such a blur. Email details, more stuff. My business is consuming me. Am I really living? When do I get to do what energizes me and enjoy the rewards? Welcome to your second life. All is now doing what you love and loving what you do. It's radical creativity. Here's your host, the VIP coach, John Davidson.
All right, it's Radical Creativity, folks, and coming right at you. We're in November of 2012, and it's such an exciting time to be an entrepreneur. If you're listening to this show, you either own a business, you're thinking about starting a business, maybe you're a high commission paid salesperson, and you've been in your career for such a long time that maybe you're on the border of burnout, right? You've grown up, you've gotten good at what you do. You've gotten really technically good at what you do. If you're a doctor, if you're a CPA, if you're a realtor, if you're a professional, what I know about you is if you've been in it for a while, you've gotten trapped in your own excellence. And you ask me, JD, but wait a minute, it's all about me getting better at what I do. But one thing I know about getting better at something is when you start to get into debt and you start to make great money with it, if you don't have things sorted out, if you don't have your personal finance dimension in order, well, you might misuse that money and you pay all these things out. You got to pay the price of looking good. You got too much pimp factor and bam, you find yourself restrained. You're in quicksand. You can't seem to get to the next level. You can't outmaneuver your situation because all you're doing is more and more spending time on something that although you're the best at it, it's not energizing to you. I'm the guy who understands that. We're the coaching program on earth that really gets what happens when you're earning a high income and you get stuck in this trap of excellence. And our VIP coach program, it is one of a kind because we help these individuals very carefully, very delicately navigate that bridge from the excellence trap to a whole different degree of confidence, a whole different degree of freedom, a whole different degree of mobility, of liberating them, of choosing the kind of clients they love, choosing the business model that they want to design, and living a life of creative freedom. And becoming more valuable and becoming more and more themselves by being more competitive. So if that's you, if those are your objectives, if you're looking for more freedom, more confidence, more earning power, if you're looking to really live your best life, don't die with all the music in you. I mean, give yourself, offer yourself the most to what you're doing and feel full. Not something where you say, I'm putting everything into this thing and I'm just waiting to get something out of it. It's just not worth it, JD. No, I want you to put whatever you put into what you do and you feel that you're getting 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 times more out of what you're doing. And I'm not just talking about the green stuff. I'm not talking about the money. Yeah, that's good, but that's the byproduct of creating value for someone. How do you create value for someone? You create creative freedom. You establish a support system. Right? You bring the kind of habits, relationships, support system, and the kind of value creation, together, all in one, to really realize the fullness of what you are, who you are, what you've brought. So I learned something this week, a lot of good findings this week in the coaching calls. I like to bring anecdotes, tools, new ideas, new perspectives right out of the coaching space into the Radical Creativity Show. And the first one I got is something that's very cool, very cross-cultural, that I heard, and it was like this. And this was right out of an anthropologist this week that I heard named Angeles Arian. She's a workshop facilitator, a very gifted speaker, somebody who works with companies and individuals and really helps them really get the life that's here. I think it's an individual who helps people really be present to what's emerging, what's unfolding, which is an enormous trend right now. We are in a spiritual time, folks. We are in the kind of eco-spiritual time where I believe that we are stepping out of looking at everything conceptually and we're becoming more intimate. We're wanting more of the adventurous life. We're wanting the experience of real living again. And it's a restorative process. So Angela shared this really cool thing with me. She said that in the indigenous tribes, the leader is the one who brings big medicine. And when we look to the leader with big medicine, they give us two symbolic images. Death, right? Death, dying. Death is on our right shoulder, and destiny is on our left shoulder. And imagine these are two little entities that are talking to us, and death asks, what are you really doing with the life, this wild and great and precious gift called life? Because if you're not using it, then I got you. Right? That's interesting. Very deep question. And number 2, on the left shoulder, is destiny. And destiny's asking, did you really do what you came for? Are you really doing what you came for? And death is asking, are you really using the life that's here? So you as an entrepreneur, as a professional creator, a serial creator, as I call you, and an opportunity to be a gifted boss, you have the chance to really get fully what these 2 questions are evoking in you. Are you really using the life that you have to the fullest? To the fullest. Now, I'm not talking about just making, remember, a great lifestyle. I'm talking about creating a fulfilling life. And that may mean earning less. Big is not always better. Right? Isn't that true? I know entrepreneurs. I shout out to those entrepreneurs that have gone through the painful experience of going big and getting there fast. And what happened in the process? They probably burned up their personal life. They burned up their energy. They burned up. Was it really, really worth it? You can go big. You can go fast. You can go big. Go for it. Make impossible dreams. It's all good. If it matters to you, let's work toward it. However, it may not be what you're really, really after. So are you creating an impressive lifestyle, or are you after a fulfilling life? Let me give you an example. Let me ask you a question. You make good income. If you're listening to this show and you are smelling the perfume of the VIP coach and you're on to what we talk about, you're making a good income, because on this show I talk about what you have to think, the perspectives, the habits that are born out of high-income people. So this show will not resonate with you if you're a lower than $100,000 income earner. And the reason it won't resonate with you is underneath the $100,000, you just don't have the capacity to delegate. You're still carrying the business on your back, and you still think that you're going to control it all, do it all, that nothing really is going to get done without you. And that's the myth that you're going to have to take off your face. You're going to have to take off that mask. Because from here to 250 to 500 to a million, it's going to be about building a great team. If you're selling a lot, you're going to need to lead a group of people in order to sell to the next level. So if you're this person that's listening to me, let's imagine that you take your income and you cut it in half. Okay? Let's say you're making $500 a year, but right now you're going to earn $250. You cut it off. What would be the 5 things that you could not live without? Right? I'm talking about those qualities that you could not live without. Man, they are indispensable to you, right? They're vital. They're a must-have to your life happiness. What are those 5 things that you make half the income you make, but you can't live without these 5 things? Go ahead, get a pen, write them down. Write down these 5 aspects. You're writing this down, and you say, well, I can't live without my kids. Oh, I can't live without my wife. Oh, I can't live without that time, that companionship, the closeness, the belonging, all that love, the fullness, the times we had at the beach, the moments in the forest, the times camping, all those great things, being outdoors, being by the river, doing some fishing, going here, walking here, riding my, I start to identify a ton of things, and you know what? When I ask myself how much it really costs me, it doesn't really cost a lot. So I have choices. It's not about how much it costs. It's about choosing. What do we choose? We choose to organize our lives around what matters to us. Yes, we can do this. We can do this. Creating is not conditional. I've said this on this show many times. It's a really key idea that we talk about in the VIP Coach. We teach all of our entrepreneurs that they have a choice. And this fundamental choice is that they can become the predominant creative force in their life, not circumstances. And that is a choice that you can make. And that choice right there, what that does is it gives rise to a whole nother land, a whole nother space, a whole set of freedoms. Freedom to be healthy, freedom to choose to, freedom of relationship, who to relate with, freedom to be true to oneself. And you're free to choose to become the predominant creative force in your life. That right there organizes you at a whole different level. You get on different terms with life when suddenly you choose to be the predominant creative force. You're no longer a victim anymore. There's no more entitlement attitudes. So you don't draw your confidence from everything else just being right. Oh, if it was just this way, I'd be okay. Oh, if it was just this way, it'd be okay. See, you're no longer a consumer. You don't need to be entertained. You don't need to have all these conditions to be great. You don't need all this, and this, and this to be this way so you can be that way. You don't need all these people to be that way so you can be like this. You quit manipulating and controlling everything. Why? Because it's replaced by personal responsibility. As you say, okay, this matters to me. I'm going to make up a fairy tale of what I really want to create, and I'm going to start moving in that direction. And suddenly life doesn't go your way. Reality doesn't cooperate with you, right? We all know that. As we mature, we obviously come to understand that we don't have all these special powers to boss around reality. We quit arguing with reality. It's a sign of maturity. And we recognize reality for the wild card nature that it has. That reality is reality. It plays out the way it plays out. And I think as we get older, we become less and less preoccupied with the qualifications of reality. It doesn't have to be this way or that way. It shouldn't be this way. It should not be that way. We kind of begin to let go more and more of kind of all of our experiential expectations, programming, all the maps of our mind, all the representations that we've carried from the past. But we realize as we grow as entrepreneurs that when we create, when we make these choices, I choose. I come into this moment. I choose how this meeting will go. I choose to create X. I'm setting an intention. And what happens? Well, I'm not sure how it happens, but I know something miraculously can happen. I don't know what to call it. I don't think there's a word to describe it. Maybe it's just something gets on our radar when we set our intentions on our choices. We begin to find people in the most miraculous places. Strange coincidences begin to happen. All these synchronicities begin to open up when we begin to set and organize our life upon our intentions. Where do intentions come from? If an entrepreneur operates fundamentally out of the base, his actions are based on his intentions, where do they come from? I don't know if they come from you or they come from you co-creating with some forces outside of you. I think mind and matter meet somehow. There's something intrinsic interior that is matched or resonating with something exterior. And oftentimes individuals on the spiritual path or org development consultants will call it co-creating, that I'm finding a way to kind of match what my intentions are with the prevailing reality that's being accepted as such. And that as I come into reality, and reality is trending, it's dynamic, it's moving, it moves this way, it moves that way, there's really nothing really real about it. It's always in a state of flux. And as I come to terms with that process, that is the natural born way of the universe, I don't fart around with that lawfulness. I respect it. I come into the nature of things. And as I become more accepting of it, I begin to say, wait a second. I'm not really shut down here. My maneuverability, my ability to create is still there. I don't need everything to be just so. I'm not a rat in a maze that is trying to get through the blocks and the inhibitions and all these things that life are putting in front of me. I'm using life as my teacher. So where does the entrepreneur draw his confidence? Where do you get your confidence? You go out in the world and you affect it. You affect it with your urges, and those urges are dynamic. So where does it come from? Well, here's the bottom of the bottom, right? Here's the bottom of the bottom is it comes out of love. How often have you seen someone who looks and appears like a genius at what they do? They're not copycatting anybody, and they are honestly, truly creating out of something they deeply care about. They care about it. Why do they care? It's a great question. They care because they just do. But no, wait, JD, wait. No. Life just can't be that simple, man. It's just too simple. That's right. It's so simple, it's hard. We have to make it worthwhile. We have to make it an event. We've got to make it count. So we must position what we expect or set ourselves to create commensurate with what we deserve. Yes, JD, we need to keep score. Right. It's all about this. Yes. Wait a second. Does deserve have to be married to desire? Does it? What if we were to separate that? What if we separated deserve from desire? What if my identity, what if my scorekeeping, what I think about myself, my self-esteem, my concepts of myself, could I still create despite those concepts, high, medium, or low opinion of myself? Could I create? Well, human potential would suggest that no. No, you've got to focus on yourself. You need to get self-referential. Therapy teaches us that we need to fix our quirks. There's something wrong with us. There's something that we cannot accept in ourselves. But you know what, folks? I've learned over 15 years with creators that the minute they get self-referential, the minute that they loathe in what's wrong with them, they think that everything going on is about them, that they've created their own reality, the bottom line is they've taken reckless responsibility. You see, you are not totally responsible for what happens to you. Isn't that liberating? That what happens to you is what happens to you. But that's not where you orient yourself. And certainly if you want to go with that notion, fine. You want to live out of your circumstances at best, react, respond, perfect your responses, lower suffering, try to find ways to, shift the parameters, change all that stuff, and all you're really doing is you're just kind of mucking up things. You're really not doing anything substantive. There's really not anything that's trending in the way of change. There's nothing sustainable. All you're doing is coping. We're in a feel-good society, so it sells workshops. It's great to market and sell to people positive thinking. Hey, I can help you think this way, therefore things will show up in your life. Hey, if you feel bad and negative, condone and condemn those thoughts because that's what's making you responsible for the reality that you have. We've gotten out of touch with what really is a better way or a more suitable way to come into life. And that is that we are natural-born creators. It's part of our nature. Just by the way we embody our living as a human being, we are creating every second. We are walking, loving units. We are units that give rise to children. We're units that give rise to building things. We have in our soul, down deep, in our intentions, the basis of what we are, who we are, is that we are designed to create. We are. Look at the attributes we have. Look at what we have in us. Look at our emotional makeup. Look what we have. Emotion, right? We give rise to a sense of emotive. And we motivate ourselves to cause something. Granted, we make sacrifices. Sometimes it's a love-hate relationship. But what dominates us is that creative act. And it's part of our very nature. So when we go into our creative act, and that's all we really occupy, creating then becomes a process. It's not born out of our potential. It's not something that we have to do all this and that and change our beliefs and reprogram things and get rid of our crap and resonate with the right frequencies and all that. You can do all that, but it's too much work. Why do you need to go through all that work? So on the next half of the show, I'm going to continue talking about this. A lot of what I'm talking about are some of the ideas that we came into on No Hype Allowed, the show that was before this show. And I love getting back to this stuff. I like kind of tearing the filters off of your eyes about all this hype and stuff that you've learned about positive thinking, willpower, drumming up yourself, improving yourself, finding out who you are, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And at best, it's all self-referential stuff. But you see, the problem with it is when it gets down to being an effective creator is you get so turned into yourself that you lose your relationship and that necessary separation between you and what you're creating. So I'm going to get you back into that. If you've fallen asleep, if you've gotten too self-referential, and you've gotten too turned around on yourself and self-improvement, I'm hoping I can reach you today and maybe enlighten you and wise you up in looking at other ways that you can do what you do, to be who you are, to not change a thing. Isn't that cool? I'm not just selling that. I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to show you after the break that you can be all you are, who you are, the way you are, your DNA, the way it's made you, without a positive attitude, because you can't have one. Try having kids. Try running a business. You won't have a positive attitude all the time. You don't have to focus on your moodiness. You can be all that stuff. You can be human, and you can be brilliant, and you can create. And that's the game. I'll be right back.
It's Monday morning. I'm drained.
You've got mail.
Oh, look at this. It's the Monday Advantage video. Yeah! Now I can get past the distractions and implement something new. The Monday Advantage. It's that easy. Just subscribe free for a limited time at highlevelperformance.com. Every Monday, launch the week with fresh tools, giving you the right state of mind, focus, and confidence. See what becoming a gifted boss and serial creator is all about. Subscribe today at highlevelperformance.com. That's highlevelperformance.com. And start enjoying your Monday Advantage today. Grow your business and grow as a human being with these captivating books authored by the VIP coach himself. John Davidson. The Day I Built My Barbecue is about creative freedom. Learn how you can not only live well, but also grow a thriving business at the same time. John shows you his step-by-step technique with the principles, strategies, and steps to move from a business operator to a business owner. The day you build your barbecue is the day we all wish for. Totally free of distractions, totally available to living well, fully present. Then don't miss Unstoppable You. It's about creative value. When we do what we love and love what we do, we discover ways to make our business more fun and monetize our passions. Through stories, tools, and steps, this book will help you bring something to the world that no one else can and bridge your most unique talents to the deepest aspirations you have of the future. And stand in the presence of all you are. It's about creative purpose. What does it mean to live on purpose? How do we work with the mystery that life presents us at every moment? In this book, John shows us through the silent spaces in life how to connect with our innermost sacred projects and passages. You'll learn how to bring the work, language, and presence of the soul into everything you do. Visit highlevelperformance.com to pick up any of these books in paperback or Kindle editions today. That's highlevelperformance.com.
Having a life where you have the creative freedom to do what you love and to offer the world something that only you can bring to the table. That is the world of high-level performance with John Davidson. That is the world of radical creativity. That is the world that you can be a part of when you realize all that is holding you back is you. Begin the journey through one-on-one coaching that gives you the finesse for business and lifetime achievement. And find your place on the roadmap to high-level performance today. Visit highlevelperformance.com.
What matters to me? What is my true work?
Monetize your passion and enjoy creative freedom with the VIP Coach. You're listening to Radical Creativity with Executive Performance Coach John Davidson.
All right, we're getting back to the roots of creating, folks. Back to the no hype allowed space. And right now, I'm going to talk to you about the creative process. And you may be thinking, JD, there's things about me that I don't like. And if I could just do away with some of these things about me, I could be much more successful. And I'm caught up in this whole sort of scheme of, man, if I could just clean up my attitude, if I could clean up my negative thinking, if I could clean up my poor self-esteem, if I could clean up my confidence level, everything would work out better. So I'm going to ask you, where did you get that information? How did you learn that? Did you learn that by osmosis? Did you learn that naturally? I don't think you learned that, I'm going to guess, just through the course of life. I think you've learned that. If you really go to how I know it what I know, I don't think you know that on your own. I think you've gotten that from someone else, from teachers, mentors, coaches that have misled you. And maybe you were part of the workshop movement. Maybe you came out of the S seminars, or maybe you came out of LifeSpring or the Summit organization. Some of these organizations that were teaching you to work on yourself. And it was a great way, it was a great business model to maintain continuity and commitment in their business. But I'm not sure it was entirely in service to you becoming a more effective creator, despite telling you that it would. And so you kind of get into the next issue, and then you become more drawn in, and then you notice this and you notice that. And instead of remaining objective about it and kind of letting go and realizing that at that moment you're just observing it, you had something else going on, that the more you got drawn into bad beliefs, the more you got looking at yourself, the more that you lost sight of what you needed to be doing to actually create. You got too internally referenced. And when that happens, when you don't think you're charismatic enough, when you don't think you're this, when you don't think you're that, what it does is it creates, inadvertently, a negative belief. See, why, if I'm standing in front of a mirror and I'm trying to lie or convince to myself or give myself propaganda that I am this or I am that, or I'm trying to cloak it or be it, act it, model it, when my mind knows very well that I am not that. And what that does is it actually begets the belief that I'm trying to offset with the ideal. See, if I say that I am rich, and I am this, and I am special, and I am this, and I'm trying to talk into myself, who but a person would do that would be someone who's stupid. Who but a person that would do that would be someone who's not rich. Who but a person... It begets the belief that we're trying to set an ideal over. And so we run into this conflict where people are setting a bunch of ideals of themselves, and that's what's organizing their actions, and what they're doing rather than honestly creating something that they care about. Because in the creative process, you're creating out of the love that you have for its own sake for something. It's not self-love. If I'm creating a relationship, I'm focused on the relationship. I'm not focused on me. If I'm creating a business or a career, I'm focused on the subject matter of the business or career. Now, whatever's going on with me in range, I'll have good days, bad days, inspired days, non-inspired days. I'll have feelings days, anger, frustration, resentments. I'll have all the things that make me human in my circuitry and certainly are worth looking at and recognizing, because those things are experiences that we have, and that's fine. But we've taken it too far. We've enmeshed that, thinking that if I do those things differently, if I start to change the inner landscape, if I start reprogramming kind of the patternistic structures, then I'm going to somehow change the trending of things. And that's not true. That a lot of what happens is we are caught in that internal referencing rather than focusing on what we want to create and staying true to what it is that we really say matters. So we can still be a great creator and have terrible self-esteem. In fact, if you look at the bios of most people that have been successful, that have brought things into being they cared about, many of them didn't think much of themselves. They hadn't really realized any potential in them anyway. I mean, what was there to really realize or recognize? So, beefing yourself up, believing in yourself, all these things, those are things that create a lot of rallying and pep rallying around something, but they really don't do much. There's not enough traction with that. And it's just a lot of work, and you end up the same way. More and more, you end up more and more distant from what you really want to create. And so chronic frustration that you're trying to cure by rah-rahs and confidence building and all these things to improve yourself are actually worsening, because the more ideals that you begin to set yourself upon, the more that you reinforce the negative belief that those ideals are attempting to offset. So we don't want to get into more of this ideal belief conflicting. We need to come into what current reality is. But when we come into current reality, in other words, reality as it is, factually, not editing it from our past, not filtering it through our programming, through our mental representations of ourselves or of reality or other people, what we do is we have a sense of, we get the capacity of coming into reality and recognizing reality as reality. What is happening when we do that? When we begin to be true to ourselves, what happens? Well, I believe that we begin to see moment-to-moment changes that we need to make on behalf of what we want to create, that our intentions begin to kind of work creatively as a source, as a device, as a unique instrument in the moment when we have a place to go and we come into reality and know that there's distance between what we have and what we want. But a lot of our organizations, our businesses, and our lives have become organized. We become fetished around trying to look at the brighter sides of things, to feel better. We don't want to have the rainy day of the good, the bad, and the ugly. We don't want to see the full picture of reality because we've been trained to feel better, or we want to believe in what we do. And so at the best, temporarily, we work up all this energy synthetically out of the belief rather than out of the reality. But more and more as individuals develop the capacity for seeing current reality in comparison to what they want to create, they start to notice a more generative pattern of order, almost like nature's working in their favor. That instead of them having to push, they become pulled by kind of an ongoing file cabinet, a reminder of what they set upon to do and create and where they actually are. And it becomes more and more appealing to come into the moment and ask, what do I have now in comparison to what I want to create? Oh, okay, great. Let's not argue with it. This is what I actually have. So if I really want to create a career in this is what I actually have now, what's working, what's not working. And so creating becomes a structure or a pattern of strategic choices that are made one upon the other. And a lot of these choices either work or don't work. But it's kind of a 50-50 game, because when you're playing in the creative process, you have to come to terms with that 50-50 rule. 50% of the time it works, 50% of the time it doesn't work, but you're going to treat those two feedback systems with equal value. That's huge. That takes away my hesitancy. That takes away that resistance, that kind of cautiousness to go out and do something. The only way to learn is by doing. And by doing, we're actually moving closer to, or hopefully acting on behalf of, with informed action, what we really want to create. How do we learn? We learn by doing. But, whoa, wait a minute, JD. I want best practices. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. It takes too much time. But you know what? Most of what you've enjoyed by virtue of other people's entrepreneurship They didn't do it by copying anybody. They didn't say, well, let's go the easy way. Let me find a way through to find the right answers for things. Right answers are good. It's useful. But a lot of times the problem with having right answers first is two. One is that you find what worked for someone else's goals, because creations demand action. You have to work with creative proposed action when you are working from a fairy tale goal, a goal that doesn't exist yet. You're bringing something into being that you care about. Starts in the mind, and then you bring it into reality. All creations are created twice, essentially. And so when you're making choices upon that, you're moving towards it, you're having to constantly compare what's going on with what you want to create. Today, then, you compare that. And for a lot of people, they don't know how to work with the generative side of that. They see current reality as a source of scarcity, threat, fear, judgment. That it's indicating things are potentially going to be lost. And so at best, we're not really creating, we're kind of problem solving. We're removing an unwanted circumstance. But when we have a place to go, when we identify what matters to us, we then juxtapose what we have in comparison to what we want, and therefore we kind of strike up and engage. We rig a structure, a pattern, a new pattern of order to trend toward what we want to create and actually work toward our goals. Now, that may sound kind of interesting. What are structures here? They're like underlying scaffolds that support our goals. If I'm a dietary recommending person, if I recommend nutrition solutions, I'm going to find out what kind of health you want to create, and then I'm going to position your goal within a structure. Now, how would I do that? Well, I would identify current reality in comparison to the goal that you seek to create. And so by knowing where you actually are, where you're starting from, in comparison to where you want to be, you're now able to adjust and adapt your actions. Now, notice that while I'm in that, and when you're in the creative act, everything going on with you is no longer even referential. If you ask creators, hey, what are you doing? They go, I don't really know. I'm just creating. They're not going to tell you, well, I'm internally changing or I'm improving myself. No. Self is nowhere in sight. There is no self when you're creating. It's no self. So you abandon the whole kind of holdout of self. I'm this, I'm that, you're this, you're that, the world is this, I'm this. There is no referencing anymore. All you do is simply quietly recognize, like an artist, this is what I have, this is what I want to put on the canvas. This is what I have, this is the finished state of the canvas. That's all it is. Now, you can be more present, and you will be in the creative process, to what it is that is going on. The cool thing about creating is that it awakens you more fully to the present moment. Because you have an intention, you know what matters. And when you know what matters, it's kind of a sensor. But that sensor is looking from a deeper place within you. You're highly aware from your heart. You're highly aware from kind of your depth of your being what's going on. You're perceiving from different sort of levels of intelligence. Maybe emotional intelligence. You understand and have compassion for what's going on. And that impacts you internally. Or something changes you in the reality that's here, and you really have a deeper sense of flow and meaning and connecting the dots, kind of, that this reality that's here is somehow something that's connecting in a broader context. It's all good. But don't make up what's going on by interpretations or meanings. Creating is separately generating something separate from what you know. It's separate from what you know. So some of the past and experience you're using in the creative process. Some of it's useful, but a lot of it's not, because you're creating out of the learning process of bringing something into being that never existed. And since it never existed, you have no know-how. You haven't really brought the how in. You're just choosing the what. You're saying, I will operate from what I really want to create. Is it selfish? No, because a lot of what you are naturally geared to create, just by your very makeup, is you are a being that cares a lot about something. Creating is love. And a lot of the love we have for something is very altruistic. I mean, how many times have we been around someone that really feels we're being given something that's authentic and we've never seen it before because they're directly loving it? Think of music. I can watch Eric Clapton play for 3 hours and I'm entranced by it. Does he love what he's doing? Absolutely. Yeah, he's just as in love with it as I am. We love watching people loving what they're doing. That draws a crowd because that's where they are authentic. That's where they get authentic power. Does it draw attention to them? Yeah. Is it manipulative attention? No. It's obvious attention. It's attention by accident when we watch someone do what they're meant to do. And what they're meant to do means that they're connecting with something they love enough to cause to exist. So I ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Listener, when was the last time you really felt you were creating something? You were really connecting outwardly with something you wanted to bring into being? I encourage you to do that. How do you come into that? Do you do that by music? Do you do it by singing? Do you write poetry? Do you create solutions for your customers? Are you creating a career? What do you want to create? That question has no conditions. You can ask it at any time. I don't care where you are. I don't care what life you're living. I don't care who you're with. I don't care what circumstances you have. I don't care what's upon you, what's not upon you, what you're missing, what you have. None of it qualifies. Creating is creating. What do you want to create? It's up for grabs. You can rethink your life at any time. That's the beauty of it. There's no age for it. There's no qualifications. There's no conditions. You create because you create. And that has great life and engagement in it itself, just to get that point of view. It's not a worldview I'm talking about. We're not talking about anything that's fundamentalistic here, or this is the way, or this is the truth. I'm not coming into that for you. I'm not saying I don't have a way of living with this. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that you can remember that you have choices that you can make, and those choices can matter to you. And if you choose to do things that don't matter, well, then you can certainly do that too. But why not? Why not invest your life spirit into things that matter, not a compromise? Why not? Because you've got so many years, why not use your talents, your energy, everything you've got, what you've got within you, without you? You've got all these great things. Why not max out and go to the fullest? Why not be spending your time on things that do matter? Why not be engaged and involved in life at that level? Why not? Why not play all that beautiful music that you have in you? You don't need to have it set up a certain way. You don't need any preconditions. You don't need any prerequisites. You don't need to go to school. You don't need to do that. You don't need da. You just start looking at what you want to create and taking inventory of what you have. You even take inventory of yourself. But you can be objective about that. Look at reality. Check it out for what it is at this moment. What do you have, not have? What can you do? What can you not do? And quit being so fussy about who you are. We're the only species on the planet. Dogs don't think or are obsessed about who they are. We don't need to know so much about who we are. We know who we are through the urges that we set ourselves upon creating, because we can't talk about it in words. We know who we are through the self-expression that we have that drives our creative acts. And therefore, we sense who we are. We sense the fullness in us. We sense who we are in the loving state of things through our intentions. We come into who we are through getting intimate with reality and really tasting what's here by not being afraid of it, not running from it, not arguing with it, not pushing against it, not resisting it, but just accepting the realities as they are in this moment and seeing them as reference points, starting points to learn from, to adjust out of. That's the position. And so I guess if in one way what I'm saying is you can get on some different terms with life. And those terms are up to you. And hopefully it starts today. So if you're creating a business or a career, value for another, if you're a person who's creating a team and you're creating something in life that you truly are aspiring and dreaming of creating, don't go it alone. Get a companion. Have a coach. Have someone that sets your creative fire on this and positions it and maintains it, right? Kind of a file cabinet buddy, a maverick. You're Maverick, I'm Goose, right? I'm a wingman. Is get help. Get help. Because you can't see the full playing field. You're limited. You can't see everything. You weren't designed to. You rely on others to see the full picture. And you rely on others to help you streamline and straighten your headspace so you're aimed. There's not a lot of inner conflict between different goals and so forth. You can organize your priorities with help and coaching, so forth. There's so many unique benefits to it that I don't even have the time to get into. We're at highlevelperformance.com, and we seriously are looking for people who want to become more useful, more valuable, who want more, who want to go beyond. Entrepreneurs that are highly successful but want a restorative process to get back to being young again, to level their stress out, to rejuvenate, to enjoy what they're doing, have a lot of fun, and be delighted in all their free time and being able to impact the world too by what they're doing. But to go beyond, to bring themselves out, to make themselves useful, to self-actualize, to put themselves on a great challenge and bring out their skills commensurate with that challenge. Real living, not to be consumed by something, but create something. That's a process to master. Now, we're at 714-375-6624. If you'd like more information, go to highlevelperformance.com. This is the Radical Creativity Show with Coach JD. I hope you enjoyed it. My email is vipcoach@highlevelperformance.com. Find us on Facebook at our VIP Coach page. Man, we've got a lot of likes on there. I post the Monday Advantage show on there, the Radical Creativity podcast like this. Yeah? And also our E3.0 letter, a new letter that I write almost every week about some new finding or article that you can enjoy and implement into your business and change the lives of others, change the world, change an industry. This is serious stuff. You came in to do something. You got death on your right shoulder asking you if you're using your life. Are you? Is your destiny giving you that? I came to do what I'm really meant to do and serve who I'm really meant to serve. Those are very deep questions. Are you really getting to the things that you love? Why not? It's going to begin here. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.